freaking out just a little bit. I'm going to open us up in prayer. And so if you'll bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for your presence in this building and what you have done in this ministry. Like when we look around and we go from last year this time to this year this time, we're busting with people that love you, Lord. And so I pray for the people that aren't here tonight and all the people that are here. I pray that I glorify you in my testimony, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. I need one of those things I don't have to hold because it's going to get ugly. I came armed with Kleenex and waterproof mascara, so it'll be okay. So I'm just going to start talking a little bit about how I grew up, my parents, that kind of stuff. I grew up on a farm until I was probably 16. We moved to Tum Tum, kind of right by where Nick and Samantha live. And my parents, I had both parents in the home. They were super strict, and I was kind of a handful. I would take off because I wanted to party with my friends, and my dad would hunt me down and drag me back every single time. Like, I don't know how he found out where those kegers were, but he found me every single time. So they were great parents, and had he not done that, I probably wouldn't have graduated from high school because I just was so busy all about me and not caring about anybody else. My oldest sister, she's like, I don't know, she's our goody two-shoes in the family. She's like the black sheep. So she used to tell me, your children are going to get you back for what you did to mom and dad. I'd be like, and my kids ended up being the best. So now I just laugh at Jean. So then when I was about 20 years old, I got married to a man that was 10 years older than me. It was a really toxic and abusive relationship. And one night I had just had enough, and I waited for him to go to sleep because he wouldn't let me leave. We had a 6-week-old baby. And when he got up and went to work the next morning, I grabbed the baby and left and never turned back. And so I hid from him he probably found me after about 2 weeks, but it was awesome. I just called the cops if he came, and I just was so strong in that. I just wanted nothing to do with it. And then eventually I moved to Florida, and I met my second husband, and we had a really super good marriage. We were together for 15 years. We had 3 more children. He took Justin in as his own, and life was good. And then we moved, from Florida. We lived in Hawaii. We came to Washington. We lived in a couple different places because he was in the Navy. And when he got out of the Navy, we moved back to Spokane, and we had some friend. Our mailman, actually, was a friend of ours, and him and his wife and my husband and I joined a pool league. And it was going good for a while, and everybody was drinking, crazy. I'd just go home because I didn't want to do it or whatever. And her husband came to me and he said, Susan, they're sleeping together. I'm like, no, I totally trust him. He would never do that to me. No, you know what I mean? They're just partying. I don't want to party. I just want to go home and go to bed. I still am like that. And so anyway, it got to the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. And he had been gone all night this time, and so when he walked in the door, I confronted him, and he walked out that day. I will never forget watching him walk down the road with a garbage bag of clothes and a pillow under his arm, and it was awful. I was devastated. So at this time, I want to mention, and I know there's been a couple other people that have mentioned, that God was nowhere in my life at this time. I wasn't raised in a house that went to church. My parents I know my mom did believe in God, but I don't think my dad did. But we never went to church. And when I was raising my kids, we never went to church. I found out later that the kids were going to church with a neighbor of ours. They went to Hilliard Baptist for many years. And I found out they were praying for me, which just is amazing. So anyway, so the day that my husband walked out was December 15th, 1998. And that date is very significant. I went to a super dark place. I started dating like super unhealthy men, bringing them around my house and my children, bringing, in. I wasn't using at this point. I was just like in a horrible place. Wow, I don't think I'm gonna cry. Woo! I tried drinking to numb the pain, and I found out quickly that that didn't work at all, because I would just come home after having some beers and just get on my knees and just bawl like a baby because I was so broken. So that went on for a while. Then I started dating the unhealthy men, and then I met this guy. He's like, and I was working 3 jobs just to try to keep a roof over our heads because I had 4 kids at home and I was a single mom. He's like, hey, I have this meth that you can use, and you can do it all. You can take care of your kids. You can work all 3 of those jobs. You'll be fine, right? I'm like, no, I'm good, right? Well, he kept after me, and I finally gave in. And man, your life turns around so quickly when that happens. I mean, it was like 0 to 60 in seconds. My life went way worse, only I didn't see it. Like, I'm thinking I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm working 3 jobs, and I'm taking care of my kids, and I'm just amazing, right? Cleaning my house at 2 o'clock in the morning, and all that. So I hung out with people that I couldn't trust. I hung out with people who stole from me. I believe at one point, one of my kids had some birthday money sitting on this counter in the house, and someone stole that money from him. And it was money that he was saving, I believe, to buy a bicycle with. And it was just heartbreaking. So I kept trying to quit. I tried to quit like 3 different times. One of the times I stayed clean for about 9 months and still went back to using. I got pulled over by the cops with the guy I was dating at the time. We had drugs in the car, and he tried to take the blame, but they took us both to jail. I was terrified. I was more terrified of my children finding out what is going on, you know what I mean? Because the whole time I'm hiding this from them. And so that was like probably the most terrifying night in my life. The strip search, all of that was so degrading and so horrible. It was, oh my gosh, it was awful. So my sister bailed me out the next day, and I eventually went to court, and I just pled guilty because I was guilty. Like, they were my drugs. So we ended up with conspiracy charges, whatever. So I have a felony. I know you guys probably have me beat, but it was so terrifying and scary, but it still didn't keep me from using. So I stayed clean for maybe a month at that time, and then I went back. And so life is going on. Now I'm only working 1 job, but I held my job most of the time. And I get a call from a good friend of mine's children. And she says, you got to come here. They took Mom to jail. She tried to stab me. It was awful. And so I went to her house, and you walk in the house, and it literally looks like a tornado hit it. And she had 2 teenage girls. There was a big old butcher knife stabbed in the kitchen cabinet. And oh my gosh, I was so mad at her for treating her children like that. And then that really made me take a deep look at where my life was going. At this time, I still had 3 kids at home. My oldest son had already graduated high school and moved out. And so we went to, she went to jail. I went to the court, her arraignment the next morning, and I'll never forget that smirk on her face. Like, she blamed her kids. I was so mad at her. Oh my gosh. And so she got out of jail. We got back in contact. The judge told her, you have to go to treatment or you're going back to jail. So I took her to treatment. I took her to the bus station, actually. She was going to the one in Yakima, Sundown. I took her and dropped her off at the bus, and I said, you will have 1 clean friend when you get out. I'm not going to touch it ever again, and that is my clean date. I never touched it again. Sadly, she's back out there again. She stayed clean for about 6 years and then went back out. But so then I realized, not until later, the significance of that quit day. It was December 15th, 2002, exactly 4 years after my husband walked out. So God took that day and turned it into something amazing, like a life-changing decision. And I still want to say God's still not in my life. I'm not going to church. It's just not even, I've always believed in God, but never, ever followed him, ever. And so that same friend took me to CBC. And I walked in those doors, and these people are like raising hands, and they're dancing and holding hands and hugging each other. I'm like, whoa, no, I'm out of here. And so I left, right? I mean, I stayed for that. And then she's like, you gonna come to church with me again? Nope, not ready for that. Nope. Right? And so eventually I ended up going back there. And I actually stayed at that church for 17 years. And there was a 5-year break where I lived in the Tri-Cities. And then when I moved back to Spokane, I went straight back to that church. Little side note is Tim and Sarah and Matthew, they were all going to church there during the 5 years that I was gone. So our paths never crossed. And so Tim and I just figured that it was a God thing. Like we weren't ready to cross paths yet. And so there's that. And so eventually, I still hadn't given my life to Christ yet by this time. I was just going to church and, going through the motions and all that. And then I was dating this guy that was like totally unhealthy, just awful. He was using, cheated on me, all kinds of stuff. And it was just an awful relationship. But we got invited to a speaker at Calvary Chapel up on the north side. And it was called Roadblocks to Christ. And talk about those, fire and brimstone stuff just freaks me out still, right? And I get to this, and this guy is on the stage, and he's got these, the roadblocks with flashing lights for construction. He's got a bunch of those lined up on the stage. And so he's like screaming into his microphone, and he's talking about these blocks that stop you from going to Christ. And he'd take one of those things, and he'd slap it and go bam down on the stage. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyway, that is the night I gave my life to Christ. I mean, I'm like, and immediately I felt the change, like inside. Like I was bawling and they were praying with me, and it was amazing. And I just find it funny that kind of stuff just freaks me out, and then that happens, So I'm still in this toxic relationship. He was actually at that church service with me. He bought me my first Bible, and I started reading the Bible, and I'd ask him questions. He was raised Mormon, and so he knew a lot about the Bible, and I'd ask him questions, but he manipulated that Bible to suit him and how I treated him and how many times I would forgive him, 70 times 7, right? Like, I'm super new at this, and he's just like manipulating the crap out of me. And so anyway, so then I enrolled in college and started going to school to be a counselor. And I started learning all this stuff that, I'm like 40 years old and I have no idea that this stuff is, like setting boundaries and, what's the one where you're completely dependent on the other person? What? Codependent, yeah. So I'm like totally codependent on this guy. And I'm learning this stuff in school. And so I start telling him, no, you can't do that to me. No, I'm not putting up with that anymore, you know what I mean? And so eventually I kicked him out. And it was crazy how long I put up with that, especially after the marriage breakup and all that heartbreak. I just let somebody do that stuff to me. It was awful. I was still not healed. And so the most significant, I'm probably going to get done really soon. The most significant part about this to me is I hid this from my children for 18 years. So if you're hiding something from somebody you love, just tell them. Fear and anxiety and shame and guilt kept me in those chains for 18 years. And so I started coming to this church. I got invited by Eileen, she's sitting back there somewhere, and PJ, and to go camping. And I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Well, Eileen wasn't going, and PJ canceled on me. And so I decided that I was just going to go anyway. Like, what do I have to lose? Well, I get there, and there's like 50 people there that I see Alicia Doney's face, and I'm like, oh, like I'm so glad somebody's here that I know. And she actually even ended up on my campsite with me, which was really nice. Sarah had to back my trailer in. My dogs got loose because she doesn't like dogs. And it just was crazy, but it was so fun, and it brought me here. So we set up camp, and then we came here on a Thursday, and then we came here for church. And I think that was the second, recovery night you guys had. I hadn't met you by the first one, but it was the second one. And I look around, and it's grown. It is crazy how much it's grown. We got a full-blown worship team up here. It's awesome. So anyway, the second camping trip, I wish Katie was out here, but I guess she'll watch this online. She already knows. I walked a lot with Katie. We were both trying to exercise, and so I walked with her, and she just literally spilled her guts to me. She told me everything about her life. And I'm like, for the last 5 years, God's been trying to push me into telling my children I need to stop being silent. I need to just bring it to the light. And then Katie did that. And then later that night, we're sitting around the fire, and Ed says, hey, Susan, have you ever done your testimony? I'm like, no. He's like, why? And I'm like, my story's kind of insignificant. And he's like, you could change somebody's life by saying that. And the funny part is, Ed had never done his testimony. Oh my gosh. So anyway, I got home, and I thought, every turn, every song, every sermon, everything that I heard from that point forward was like, you need to do this. You need to tell your children. And so I sat down and I wrote them a letter, because there's 4 of them, and I didn't want to go through it 4 times. My emotions probably couldn't handle that. So I drove over to Gig Harbor. My daughter lives over there. I drove over there, and it was actually on her birthday on October 10th that I told her, I said, I really I have something that I just need to share with you. We need a private place. I don't want the kids around. I just want it to be you and me. And we couldn't find anywhere. We went to a coffee shop, it's full of people, and it's pouring down rain outside. And so we ended up sitting in the car, and I whipped out that letter, and I read it to her. And through all, we were both just bawling. And she forgave me. It was nothing. I was so relieved. It's she couldn't believe that I'd never told her, and she had no idea, none, So I even would, if anybody did know about my recovery, if they were going to meet my children, I would threaten them. I'd say, I will choke you out if you say anything about me being in recovery in front of my children. I would threaten them. So anyway, so I told Tracy, and then the following week, I got the boys all together. I just did them all at one time. And they all came over to my house, and I read them the letter, and they all forgave me. It just was it was crazy. So, So all those secrets and all that shame and pain that I held on to for 18 years was really hard to let go of for some reason. I think one reason I tried really hard to hide the pain from my kids when my husband left. It's not on them. It's not. I don't want that to affect them. And so that was one of them. And the other one was just the shame. I don't want them to know that I'm not the perfect mom, that I didn't raise you the way I should have raised you. It's sad. So anyway, even then, after I did all that, and then I'm getting ready to do testimony here, I'm thinking thinking, I'm not going to invite them. They don't need to hear this. They already know. I'm not going to tell them. And so, and I'm thinking I shouldn't be thinking that way. And so I found a Bible verse that kind of goes with it, and it's 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. And that's where I was at that point, not wanting to ask them to come tonight. So they are here. Some of them are. And their wives. My daughter's not here. She'll watch it online because she lives, far away. So I also decided to look up what the Bible says about being stubborn. Even like against God. Like I am very stubborn. Kenny can tell you how stubborn I am. I'm like, he'll try to get me to do something. I'm like, no, stop it. Stop asking me. Stop it. No, Yeah. So, and in the Old Testament, the Bible in 1 Samuel 15:23 in the expanded Bible says, disobedience, rebellion, is as bad as sin of the sorcery, witchcraft, pride, stubbornness, arrogance, presumption, insubordination is as bad as sin of worshiping idols. You have rejected the Lord's command. Now he rejects you as king. I think he was talking about King Saul in that verse. But thank you, Jesus, that we live under a new covenant. And I'm forgiven for that. So I think that's it. Oh, I have one more story. So when I met with my daughter to tell her that that I had, something really important I needed to talk to her about, and I was crying before I even started reading the letter, but I looked at her and I said, so I met this girl named Katie, right? And so immediately she went to, oh my gosh, my mom likes girls. So when I talked to the boys, I didn't start out that way. Anyway, that's it. Oh my gosh, I didn't cry. And here's Sarah. And who's doing coins with you? Jessica.
Okay, let's get some music going, huh?
Good job, Susan.
Yes, give it up for Susan. Yeah, I was crying. Anybody else crying? I don't know why. People, when they share their heart, there's something so beautiful about that, right? When you could get up here, this is a lot to come up and be open and honest. So, love you. Okay, we're going to start with the ladies tonight. If you have one day, or if you are brand new, under 30 days for the ladies. Woo! Still crying. Yeah, give it up. That's why we're here, right there. Okay, 30 days for the ladies. 30 days. 60 days for the ladies. 90 days for the ladies. 6 months. Ladies, any 6-monthers? What? Yeah, in a row, please, preferably. I mean, it means more, let me tell you. 9 months. Yeah. Good job, girlie. 9 months. Over here, say cheese. Over here, say cheese. Come on. Go this way. Okay, we have 1 year. Yes, 1 year. Give it up for the ladies, 1 year. 18 months. 18 months for the ladies. 2 years. 2 years. 3 years. 4. 5. 6. 7 years. Oh, we don't. 7 years. 7 years. 8. 9. 10. Any above 10 for the ladies? Give it up for the ladies. Wait, Jessica J, how many years? 11 years. Woo! Stand up. Woo! Get it, Jessica. 11 years off methamphetamines. Yeah. All right, let's give it up for all the ladies. All right, Matthew and Tim.
We're going to take the... What's up, guys? We're going to take the blind guy to read the coins and the shy guy to do the talking tonight, okay?
I got a little story to share with y'all. Matthew here is my sponsor. Actually, when I very first got sober, him and I were the only 2 males in the children's ministry at Family of Faith. And I'll tell you, it was like a month and a half. I didn't even know what my clean date was. I really had to trace back to the day that I moved into the Oxford house to be in my clean date. And Matthew, he's like, how come you haven't gotten your coin yet, Tim? How long have you got? And I said, well, I think I'm almost at 3 months. And he said, how come you haven't gotten your coin? It's like, well, that's not important. I fell in love with Jesus. Not that I really wanted to get sober. I just fell in love with Jesus. So my clean date wasn't important. He says, Tim, it's not, for you to come up here and collect your coin is not about you, brother. It's about that person that's sitting out there in the crowd, that it gives them hope that they could also do it too. But check this out. So you're supposed to have 6 months clean and sober before you actually serve in the children's ministry? Yeah. Imagine the surprise on Pastor Danny's face when I went up there for my 3-month coin. It was like, but you know what? That's how God works. Because if he wants me to teach in the children's ministry, he's going to place me there no matter who else is going to be in there. So if you're standing out here and you got a clean date that you're going to celebrate, man, I would encourage you to walk up and grab that coin. There's nothing more powerful than for you to be, just as Susan gave her testimony tonight, that's how you defeat the devil, is by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. So when you come up and get that coin, you are socking the devil in the mouth. You're showing others that there is hope in recovery. Let's celebrate this together.
I love it.
Shy guy. See how I'm shaking here? Need some music. Is anybody out there that has 24 hours? You just got out of jail, you know you got 24 hours, you know. You had to spend the night there. Under 30 days. Congratulations. Get your picture taken or they'll karate chop us on the way out. Anybody got 60 days? Woo! Hey, does anybody know what the meaning behind the colors of the coins are? Did you know the red, the 30-day coin, represents the blood that Jesus shed on the cross? The 60-day coin represents, it's green. It represents that growth that you have in Jesus. As you grow, you've got that 2 months behind you. You're starting to feel your feet underneath you. You're getting your life back together. That's growth. Anybody got 90 days? Love you. 6 months. That's Jake.
Ben, are you getting up for 6 months?
You got it? That's Pastor Ben, by the way. What's the next one there, Matthew? 9 months. I got this. Biggie. We had 3 gals celebrating this milestone in their life tonight, and that was just, wow, that's so awesome to watch. That 1 year coin. Anybody got a year? You know, I got to watch my brother come up and get his 1 year coin, and I still hadn't been sober yet, and I'll tell you, that look that was in his eyes, it was like, holy macaroni, I want to feel like that. And I'll tell you, that was actually the day I really started getting serious about my recovery. That was like 9 years ago. 18 months. We're into the precious metal now because Jesus feels that you are precious to him. That's why the medals after a year are 2 years. Before we get this next one out, it has been a tradition in my life. It started with family. If somebody grabs your coin, they're not trying to steal your coin. They really want to pray over your coin. Just as you came up and gave that testimony, the evil one sees that hope that's in your eyes, and he don't want that no more. He don't want you to get that next month's coin. So when somebody grabs your coin, I love to pray over your coin. So when I grab it, it'll come back to you sooner or later. But there's going to be some people that's going to pray over it to keep you on the path, that straight and narrow path. Where are we at? 3 years. Here we go. We're going to be like a, what do you call that? An auctioneer. Yeah, and we got that 4th year coming up. Got that 4th year coming up. Anybody? 4 years. Five years. Anybody got that big nickel going on? Yeah, I'm not talking about spending time in prison, but you know, that nickel, the 5 years. That was the best joke I had. Yeah, you got that, Danica? Yeah. 6 years. I can count now. 7 years. God's perfect number. 8 years. 9 years. 10 years. Is there anybody above 10 years? Mark! Oh, Mark's like at 48 years or something. Where you at, Mark? Wow, I gotta do the math? 41 years. July 4th, 1980. We're going to invite the worship team to come back up. We're going to praise his name loudly. Such an awesome time tonight. Woo!